Hello everyone and welcome back to another Corepunk video. Yeah, you heard correctly. We are going to talk about Corepunk and we finally got some more news about Corepunk. This time we're going to talk about my favorite faction in the game called the Atlanteans. So I have really been keen to getting more news about Elaniens, and finally now we actually get news about them. So let's just dive directly into it and see how it looks. First of all, with the article we are getting from Artificial Core, we can see here that we actually get this bonus wallpaper. Behind the text, you will probably see in the article we are getting this picture here. Probably a lot of people is skipping it and actually don't really see it because it's behind an article. But here the picture is, and it looks amazing and stunning. I can't wait for going into Corepunk and actually try out running around in Atlantean Kingdom. It is going to be my main faction and my place that I'm just going to live. In this article we get a lot of clunks of text. We have like a header text, we have a history called United by Adversity, and we have a history called an Incinerating Beauty. So let's start through this story and let's see how it looks. Let's start with the header. The dense and endless forest of Atlantean Kingdom might remind you of an eerie folk tale. Predators with razor-sharp tongue lurk in the underbrush. Charming water maidens called Vodianitsia, that's a new word, lure in unsuspecting Persephone, and the crowns of trees around with nests woven of bones. But underneath the creepiness of it all, you'll find that everything falls into a natural order. To survive in these lands, you must respect the interconnections that makes this ecosystem work. You ought to watch each other's back, and you need to guard these dreadful woods with all your Elanian might from something far more terrifying. So that's the header text. That's the header text of the whole article, and it sounds cool. Let's do a cheers on that. Cheers. And now we have, well, that's just a little header text. Now we're going into a history that is very long. Well, very long, but it's a longer history we're going through now. So let's go directly to that and just let's see what we learn. I mean, this pretty much learned us that the forest is actually quite, well, dangerous, but in the end, if we don't look at all the dangerous stuff, we still have to defend it as Elaniens. So I will do that as my true Elanien's nature. So let's go down to the first history called United by Adversity. The Atlanteans had been sieved out by natural selections long before they had any kingdom. Having fallen out of a portal in the middle of dense, untouched forest, it was near impossible for any of them to survive. They faced peril at every turn, falling prey to a never before seen animal. Having your feet broken by protruding roots that permeate this land, eating wild berries when you're dying of hunger. Only a few were able to overcome it all and finally have luck to stumble upon something lodging. But even then, as night came, the walls offered no protection against the life-sucking darkness known as the crawling murk. The remaining survivors began exploring the lands they found themselves in. Brave rangers who learned to communicate with the nature, if not merge with it entirely, discovered new homesteads and became the connection strings binding the scattered community together. Now it was possible to find a surgeon, an engineer, a blacksmith, a shoemaker. Blueprints for all kinds of light-emitting contraptions began circulating from village to village, forcing the crawling murk to retreat. Disparate communities began to band together as they grow increasingly reliant upon each other. It was the leader of the Rangers who realized that something was wrong. Previously, safe trails were infested with aggressive animals, and even herbivores were now death-bearing. Trouble would ensue each time something dangerous fell out of a portal. This time, however, everything went haywire before the Rangers could get to the culprit. Wave after wave, beasts of all kinds were spurting out from deep within the forest, tearing apart houses and anyone in their way. The forest was drenched in blood and couldn't get enough of it. The Rangers gathered the escapees and led them to the rivers, their only salvation. Overcrowded boats and hastily built rafts set off downstream, traveling days and nights on end, while the water beneath them seethed with raging fish. On the rocky island in the lower reaches of the river, calamity brought together many hundreds of refugees from all over Elan, wounded, frightened, and having lost everything, they were in desperate need of ray of hope. Someone opened up a barrel of wine carried on shore by the river. Someone else took out the last of their food supplies, and a feast broke out. It was then that the Elaniens crowned their leader of heroes who led them out of the clutches of death. The crown of the Atlantean king was just a hoop from the very same wine barrel. Now at the site of coronation stands Laetana, the shining city of the Elaniens built together atop of the barren cliffs. The king rules the Elaniens to this day. He is rarely seen in his residence built as a gift to him, and can often be found in the thick of the forest. Leading a detachment of his most experienced comrades in arms. Very interesting. So we know they try to kind of settle down the Elaniens. The forest was kind of too much for them, and kind of begin all the time and fight against them. So they had to run through this river, and now they live on some kind of a barren cliff where they have built their Atlantean, and they also got a king after the little feast. So they actually have a leader now. That is quite interesting. And also that they mention a surgeon, engineer, and blacksmith, and a shoemaker. I guess we're not getting a shoemaker in the game, but I guess it's just a crafter who makes clothes, a blacksmith who makes weapon, an engineer who makes what an engineer does, and a surgeon could be just mentioning to a healer. Interesting. Okay, cheers for that story. Okay, so we have the last story here that is also a chunk of text. Let's see what kind of adventures it can give us. This one is called An Incinerating Beauty. The strength of Elaniens lies in their unity. Everyone is held accountable for everyone and everything else. Elaniens don't think of themselves as owners of this land. Instead, they see themselves as part of a complex ecosystem. When a new foreign object falls out of the portal, the Atlantean keepers will break through the thickest of woods to get the objects and seal it away in a warehouse. When gathering lumber, mining stone, smelting steel, or molding the glass for optics, Elaniens try not to upset the natural order of things, for consequences may be unpredictable. The power and splendor of Elan are nourished by devices that harness the energy of plants, without causing them any harm. Elanian technology are impressive in their magnificence, ornately woven metal containing within a deadly force of light particles. The curious-looking beacons protruding above the figures can be easily spotted both day and night. They are a welcome gift to wanderers, and can fend off shadows from the past if they ever decide to make themselves known again. In Laetana, every shrub is decorated with fancy light bulbs and lanterns. At the entrance to the capital, giant towers illuminate the vicinity with bluish rays. Entry points are patrolled by guards with heavy weapons that can instantly incinerate any threat. The Elaniens have reason to be fearful. Immediately to the east of them lies Valley of Sins, made up entirely of flesh and blood. The valley absorbs and digests everything within its reach. Its ugly creatures are manifestations of the basest of instincts: to kill, to devour, to fornicate. Elan is shielded from the valley by a strong force of Luciators, knight armed with powerful photon guns. The bastion, a gloomy yet majestic fortress built by the rivers, attracts creatures of all kinds, like a light luring in insects. The foot of the fortress walls is littered with streaming carcasses, the stench of which makes your stomach churn. The most desperate knights make for yards deep into the valley, gathering intelligence while engaging in battle. Luciator boats guard the coast from Bastion to the capital itself. If the monsters of the valley slip into the river system, the heart of Elan will be infected. Understanding what is at stake, every true Elanian considers it his duty to help the Bastion with provisions, tools, or a pair of working hands to build the fortifications. But the valley is changing. The monsters have become increasingly more coordinated, and further out behind them, the Luciator keeps spotting humanoid figures. Who are they? Potentially allies who found a way to negotiate with the valley, or are they enemy so cunning that any attempts at being reasonable would be futile? For Elan, much may depend on the answers to these questions. Very, very interesting. And in the end of this article, they actually have added a little picture. It looks like some kind of a tree. I can show you here in the background. Here you will see the picture. It's some kind of a tree with a little robot. I'm not sure if this guy is actually coming from the Elaniens, or if this guy is actually coming from... He's maybe living in the nature himself, based on some kind of nature power. I mean, we don't really know. I mean, nothing in the story here actually like makes sense for me. Well, makes sense for me why this picture is included. But I guess this guy here has some kind of a story behind him. But again, it's a cool picture. I like it that he's kind of a robot that lives in this tree with some kind of a power in it. But this text here, that it's actually quite impressive, because we now know by this what is, if you're playing the Elanian faction and you run around in this forest and quest and level and all that, we now know what the main enemy is. It is this Valley of Sins that is made up entirely of flesh and blood. So that means close to the Elanian, east of them, east from Elanian, we have this Valley of Sins that is a big place that is just made by flesh and blood. I mean, can you imagine how gruesome or how bad it will look. I mean, it looks, well, it sounds amazing, but it's going to look so ugly. Not like ugly, but you know what I mean, like disgusting. That it's just a building made of flesh and blood. So you can just imagine all the movement in the building, and you know, all those creepy things. It sounds amazing. And I saw someone on Discord so actually mentioning this, and I think he is pretty much on spot. This sounds like a place that could be a potentially raid in the game. I mean, could you imagine going in, I don't know, 12, 10 people raiding Valley of Sins, a big blood/flesh building? I can imagine that it has really cool bosses. But this story just confirmed even more that I'm 100% created for these Elaniens, because I'm going to be in a forest and I'm going to kill blood flesh monsters. That is pretty cool. So this is a nice story. Thank you, Artificial Core, for posting this story to us. I really appreciate it. And everyone, leave down a comment. Let me know what you think about this story here. And does this story here convince you actually to play Elanian? Or do you still prefer one of the other factions? I mean, again, the faction is probably not going to be locked. So even if you choose one of the factions, you can probably still play with other factions later on in the game. But does this make you maybe feel like you're going to main Elanians? Or is it a no-go still for you? Thanks for watching, let me know what you think, and see you in another Corepunk video. Peace out.